right, everybody, we are back with episode 3425 of the show. Just head on over to stephencabral.com/3425 to read along with today's questions. Can't wait to see what the community is asking on all things wellness, weight loss, weight gain, anti-aging, high performance health. Here we go. First question is from BM. BM says, hi, Dr. Cabral. Would you have any health recommendations how to help our bodies and especially respiratory system and lungs for those people, children of 6 years old and adults who live in areas with constant outdoor air pollution from PM10, PM2.5, ozone, gases from vehicles, volatile organic compounds, specifically when US AQI ranges from moderate to unhealthy and very unhealthy? We already have indoor air filters with HEPA. Keep doors and windows shut. Limit being outdoors, especially when US AQI is too high. All right, happy to help with this. This is a topic that I've talked quite a bit about on the show and certainly have recommendations I would love to share with you. All right, so there are some things that we're going to be able to do for kids, and then there's some things we're going to be able to do for adults. All things we do for kids, we can do for adults, but not everything we do for adults, we can do for kids. All right, so let's get started. Brass tacks, just like you said, we want to be able to circulate the air. There are actually circulation-based air systems that you can get, but the most important thing is, just like you said, we keep the windows closed. Okay, so outdoor air pollution, we keep it out. Even though we want to recycle the air, we certainly don't want the outside air. The next thing we want to do is we want an air filter. You mentioned yours has a HEPA filter, which is great. We want a HEPA filter, but we also need the carbon filter. And you may be missing that carbon filter, so I just want to make sure you have a carbon filter on yours, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to filter out as many of the volatile organic compounds, right? So think of HEPA for like allergies and dust and mold and pollen and things like that. And think of carbon like the block to be able to get the even thinner ones. Now, it's not exactly that, but that's a good, I think, base for how you want to think about these things, all right? And then just make sure you're vacuuming that air filter, call it once a month, and changing your filters every 3 to 6 months, depending on really on how bad the air is. Okay. Next thing that you can look into is overall detoxification and immune-based system when you're exposed to these things. Easiest thing for kids is going to be vitamin C, magnesium, keeping their zinc up. And the easiest way to do all of this is just the daily nutritional support. That's the truth. Or daily activated multi. Adding a little extra vitamin C in, whether it's through gummies or, some liquid vitamin C if they're young kids. One full spectrum magnesium or just calming magnesium if you want to use a liquid powder, and then a little omega-3s. Okay, so that's the best way. Now, if there was acute exposure, yeah, I'd recommend using a little bit of N-acetylcysteine. I'd recommend a little bit of lungs. They actually make lung support teas that kids could use. Put a little bit of raw honey in there, obviously not boiling water. And I think that could be great. So that's very, very helpful. Now, when we move to adults, what else can we use? All the same recommendations. Daily nutritional support or an activated multi, something like that. Your omega-3s, you still want your zinc, your vitamin D3 for kids as well. But now you can ramp up your N-acetylcysteine and your liposomal glutathione a bit more, and sulforaphane. All right, so sulforaphane is already in the daily nutritional support, but you can add more. You can add 50 milligrams specifically of a bromophane or sulforaphane. That would be great. N-acetylcysteine, typically dosed at 600 milligrams or twice a day. So you can do 1,200 milligrams. That's a great place to be. Liposomal glutathione, we typically just do 5 mLs of the liposomal glutathione, 1 teaspoon, and that's pretty good because you're using the precursors with the sulforaphane and the N-acetylcysteine. I also like using, along with the zinc and vitamin C, quercetin in the Hispro because that helps drive the zinc deeper into the cells. Quercetin is called a zinc ionophore, so it helps to get it in there. And then I already talked about the omega-3s. You're already getting the vitamin E. You're getting those antioxidants, which is great, but a lot of polyphenols. Fiber in your diet, kids as well, but fiber in your adult diet, 30, 35 grams a day. That's going to bind up a lot in the intestines. You can use a universal binder if you want upon waking or before bed. Sauna, another great one. And then other just like simple things are bringing more plants into the home, right? They're going to catch more carbon and other. I have a whole podcast on filtering the air with plants, so definitely check that out. Those are NASA studies on that. And then they'll give off obviously more oxygen. So that's where I would start. That's what I would do, and hope you're doing well. All right, so let's move on to our next question. Let's see what it is. Sheena is up next. Sheena says, hi, Dr. Ball. Thanks for taking my question. I'm taking Equalife's Balanced Zinc, but I live in Canada and currently looking for comparable ones that I can find here. The only one I found with similar ingredients with zinc biglycinate and copper bisglycinate is a thyroid supplement, but it also has iodine, ashwagandha, selenium, L-tyrosine, manganese, and bacopa. What are your thoughts on that supplement? Anything I should avoid? Thanks in advance for taking this for all you do. Okay, great question, but no, that's a thyroid supplement for sure. And if you don't need extra iodine, selenium, tyrosine, all of those can backfire on you. So no, don't use, like we have a product called Daily Thyroid Support. That's similar to that, but you don't take that unless you need thyroid support. Like if your TSH is above a 2, well, you might think about using that, right? But, and again, I can't provide a medical advice, medical treatments, medical cures, medical diagnosis. So you're really just looking for a zinc and copper-based product. So the best way to look for that is you might be able to have to get them individually. So our product is the Balanced Zinc. It contains 15 milligrams of zinc, 1 milligram of copper, that's the proper ratio. It contains a little B6 and a little vitamin C just to absorb those better. All right, you don't have to worry about the B6 and the vitamin C, even though it'd be helpful, but you don't have to worry about that. So you might have to find a zinc product that has somewhere around 15 milligrams to maybe 25 milligrams maximum zinc. Okay, then for copper, you only want 1 milligram. Don't overdo the copper. 1 milligram is what you're looking for. You'll probably find them separate if you can't find them together. All right, Sheena, hopefully it was helpful. Sasha's up next. SIBO protocol seems great for any yeast and fungal or bacterial overgrowth. I'm curious how effective it is for people diagnosed with Methane SIBO, IMO, with archaea and constipated. I have read that Allison is the most effective herb to kill archaea, but SIBO protocol only has berberine and oregano. Wondering if people suffering from Methane SIBO should have an additional herbal antimicrobial like Allison added while following the rest of the SIBO protocol. Thanks. It's a great question. And no, so like that, Allison is amazing. And I do very much like that as a product, but it sometimes backfires in people's programs because it can act as a bit of a prebiotic, even though I know it's meant to kill yeast and fungus. It's antimicrobial. It's a great product. For those who don't know, it is basically an extract from garlic. It can be extracted from other things such as onion or leeks or other in the same family as onions and garlic. And it can be great. It really can be. So I'm not against that whatsoever, but it doesn't necessarily work better. It works. Like there's no doubt about that. So some people just crush a clove of garlic and swallow it down. Good for parasites, good for yeast, good for bacteria. The problem is they sometimes get awful bloating and gas and all sorts of digestive issues. So we don't necessarily use it in that way, but once someone's balanced, it can be great for the heart. It can be great for blood pressure. It can be great for so many different things. So yeah, it's excellent. Now, the SIBO protocol, berberine works, oregano oil works, uva ursi works. We literally work with the lab. So we don't own the lab, but we work with the bacteria and parasite stool test. We, inside the lab, are literally testing what works against all these different things. Trust me. Like, again, we have this down to a sweet science, and it works. It works better than anything else, and it's guaranteed. I mean, that's the truth. It's just guaranteed. Thousands of practitioners use the SIBO protocol with their patients and clients. We've used it with well over 20, 30, 50,000 digestive-based clients. And so, yeah, it'll work for you as well. But if you feel more comfortable adding Allison to that, I wholeheartedly support you doing that. And you would just do it for the first 30 days. That's all. Yeah. All right. Great question. Anonymous is up next. Wondering about the usage of microwaves. I've heard you talk about it on house calls and understanding that microwave destroys nutrients in foods, changes the molecules, etc. But asking ChatGPT, I had a long conversation about it. It kept giving me research on how microwaving is actually better than cooking other methods because it supposedly preserves more nutrients, doesn't change the molecular structure of food, etc. This made me very confused on the subject. Would you mind explaining what you think based on all this research? Was it paid by manufacturers? If you could deep dive into it, make it into a full episode, that would be great. Thanks so much for your help. I might have already done a full episode on this, truthfully, Anonymous, but I'm going to give you the answer right now. So here, ChatGPT is searching the internet. That's what it does. So it's not all-knowing and all-powerful yet. It learns based on everything that it reads. If it reads things saying that microwaves are good, it says that microwaves are good. If it reads things on saying microwaves are bad, it will say microwaves are bad. If you phrase it a different way, you could say, what are the side effects of microwaving food? It would give you the side effects because there's certainly side effects. The pros are it cooks your food extremely quickly, right? And even though some people say it doesn't cook it evenly, for the most part, it kind of is. But there's some serious downsides of cooking your food in the microwave. We haven't used a microwave in my house since, I know for sure, we moved into a condo in Boston in 2007. So I know from at least 2007, I've never used a microwave. And again, that doesn't mean that I deserve a gold star or anything like that. It's just I refuse to use it based on what I've seen. So one, EMFs. That's undeniable. You are radiating your food. That's undeniable. Now, could that have long-term consequences or not? I don't know. I'm just not going to take the chance. That's the truth. Second, when you microwave food, it's almost always in a plastic container. Almost always. And so those microplastics and all of that are absolutely being driven right into your food. And same with the fumes from that as well. All right, so that's another. The next one is that, yes, it does decrease nutrients. Anytime you cook high heat, move those molecules really fast quickly, you're going to break down enzymes. And you're going to break down a lot of nutrients such as vitamin C and certain B vitamins. All right, the next one, whenever you use high heat, it doesn't matter if you're frying something or using a microwave, there's a greater chance for acrylamides. And acrylamides, we know, are cancer causing. I'm not going to say potentially, they are cancer causing, okay? So you cook those starches too long, you're going to get more acrylamides. So there we go. If you cook protein too long, you're going to get more HCAs. So those I know for sure, because of how microwaves or anything that goes high heat really quickly. So yeah, hopefully that was off the top of my head, but hopefully that was helpful. All right, Andy's up next. Looks like Andy's our last question the team has put together for the day. So Andy says, appreciate you answer my questions. My question is, what are your thoughts on Denmark banning ashwagandha? Oh, yeah, happy to go over this. I don't think I've talked about this. I thought it was completely insane, like literally insane. I don't even know what, I read the whole thing. They banned it about 2 years ago, so they don't allow the sale of it. And I was like, okay, well, Australia doesn't allow the sale of melatonin, and they don't allow the sale of DHEA because they're considered hormones. And I'm putting that in air quotes, like real air quotes. So I'm like, okay, all right, no problem. Understood. Like, at least there's a reason why. Denmark said that ashwagandha could potentially imbalance the thyroid and have hormonal based issues and maybe even pregnancy issues. And so I look at it and I'm like, all right, well, people have said this before. So I've looked at the research. I have a whole podcast on, does ashwagandha cause Hashimoto's? Like, no, like in no way, shape or form. Now, do you like maybe want to try to ramp up the thyroid or, take ashwagandha if you have really bad autoimmune issues? I don't know. There doesn't, from the research, there's no strong correlation whatsoever, but maybe we'll give you that with, Hashimoto's. It certainly doesn't cause Hashimoto's, nor does it lower your thyroid in any way, shape, or form. It's actually been shown the KS4, I think, patented version of ashwagandha helps improve thyroid. So like, that's just off the table. That's ridiculous. All right. Now, hormone-wise, does it disrupt hormones? No. If anything, it improves estrogen balance. It definitely improves testosterone levels, and it can improve DHEA and lower cortisol, because when you look at ashwagandha over the best meta-analysis I've ever seen, on average, it lowers stress hormone cortisol by 33% on average. Well, that's pretty great. So it's like, that was just crazy. It literally just, it made no sense, because I know the research that they were just kind of like pointed to, but the research was not definitive and nor greatly correlated. And also it disregards the thousands of other research studies showing how beneficial it is. So yeah, that's that. I just think that this stuff is crazy. I really do. I don't know why I keep using that word, because it just makes no sense. That's why I'm saying that. Like, it literally makes no sense. And I wonder who got this pushed through. It must have just been politicians, but why choose that? There's so many other products to ban, like, that you could truthfully, that you might say like, oh yeah, maybe that should be banned, right? But ashwagandha, that's pretty wild. That's been used for over 6,000 years, and it's one of the cornerstones of Ayurvedic medicine. So that's a pretty wild one. But that's all I can give you, Andy. I don't always know why these things take place. I appreciate everybody tuning into the show today. You're amazing. I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new Cabral concept, a full week, starting with our Mindset and Motivation Monday. Stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.